Morning, Heike. I'm Darcy Dwyer, and I am one of the two college counselors.
And I'm Miss Carrie Keegan. I'm the other college counselor.
Okay, my first question for you is, can you explain the college process?
Can we explain the college process? Sure. So at Academy, we try to work with students over all 4 years. It's a gradual process, so we start out slowly with the freshmen and then we build upon that from sophomore, junior, and senior year. So I would say, thinking of the sophomores are starting by going to our Bayes College Fair in the fall. In the spring, Ms. Keegan and I meet with the sophomores individually so that we can get to know a little bit more about them holistically, what they've been involved in at the academy, how they're doing academically, test scores. We certainly talk to them about college. Some students at that age are more interested in college than others. Junior year is sort of the big year. Again, college fair in the fall. They're taking their PSAT, which could provide them scholarship opportunities through national merit. And then again, Ms. Keegan and I meet with every junior and parents, particularly during second semester of junior year. So we have a family appointment to really look at the entire college process, the schools that the daughter might be considering, et cetera. And then senior year, it just takes off from there. I guess we do more junior year though, in terms of working with the students to write a sample college essay. They do their activity resume for the first time, a rough draft, and they also ask teachers to write letters of recommendation. So that's going back to junior. And here we are, we've just finished the early action deadline of November 1st, so that's why we're smiling and happy. That's a big deadline, and that feels good.
Okay, my next question for you is, what are questions that you were asked often?
Well, one of our pet peeve questions would be, will this look good on my resume? And the reason we're not crazy about that question is the whole purpose of anything you do, both in school and outside of school, is for your own sake. It should be something that you're interested in, you have a passion for. It's something that you should continue with for several years if possible to show growth within that activity. Ideally, you want to move toward developing within that activity, maybe holding a leadership role, or taking on some sort of responsibility. And that's really why you do anything that goes on your resume. If you're not interested in it, you don't do it. And there are some things that shouldn't be put on the resume. So those are the kinds of things that in the junior year we actually will sit down with you and help you build your resume. And we also have freshmen starting to track what they do in Naviance, so they're actually keeping kind of a running list of what they do, so when they have to put together their resume in the junior year, they have that available to them.
The only thing I'll add to what Ms. Keegan said is, the truth is colleges aren't looking for anything specific. That's really what's important. They don't have their mind set up that they want specific activities or programs. It's genuinely, as Ms. Keegan said, is what are you, the student, involved in? What matters to you? If you care about sports, community service, debate, that's what the student should pursue.
Yeah, and just one last note, the old-fashioned myth was you need to be well-rounded, so everybody thinks they have to have a little bit of everything. They have to be an athlete, and they have to do community service, and they have to do yada yada. And basically what they're saying is they want what they call the pointed student, so it's better to have one really strong activity than a whole laundry list of things.
What is the best piece of advice you can give a student nervous about the process?
I think my piece of advice is for the student to navigate her own process and not be intimidated by what everyone else is doing around them. So because all students are doing the same process, the process looks different for every student based on, are they the first in their family? Are they the youngest in their family? Have they already visited colleges? How are their grades and test scores? So the students if they can really just pay attention to themselves and their search process and their family expectations, I really think that they'll make the process their own, as opposed to getting caught up in the college frenzy and kind of just all the anxiety that everyone here, particularly at Academy, seems to feel. That's what I really try to do, is help the students and parents focus only on them and what is the right path for them. I also think that the earlier a student can begin to visit colleges, I think by the time they're seniors, they really then have a good gut feeling of what they like in terms of all aspects, geography, size, just the characteristics of a school. So I think both really encourage students and families to get out and visit schools, even, freshman year, sophomore year, maybe when they're on Christmas vacation, spring break, etc. So again, the students start to develop an opinion about what they value.
And I would say one of the most important parts of this process is communication. Early on, students and parents need to be communicating with each other about like the financial piece of this, what your actual options are. And then students also need to be communicating with us, the counselor, so that we can better guide you through the process and advocate for you through the process. And finally, communication with the colleges is really a critical piece of the puzzle. Many times students really haven't done their research when they apply for colleges, and they'll, like, on their transcript request forms, they'll mark, oh, I'm applying early action, and the college doesn't even have an early action program. We have found that we have the most success in this process when students have developed really great relationships with the college representatives, and so that has actually helped them in the process.
I'll just piggyback on what Ms. Keegan said. I think her point about research is really important, because it's very easy for students to just be aware of the typical colleges and universities that, let's say, our students or parents are familiar with, and they just are looking at schools for that reason, as opposed to really looking at, again, what they value, what's important to them, and they don't want to do that quote-unquote research. It is time-consuming and it can be fun, but it's an important step that if they miss that, I don't feel the search will be, and the end result will be as meaningful.
What are the things that you have to send out to colleges?
Well, that's at least easy.
Yeah.
So nowadays, typically we're sending out the students' transcript of their grades. We're sending the school profile, so the colleges and universities can look at the student in context of our high school curriculum. And we are sending the counselor secondary school report and a counselor recommendation in many cases if the school requires it. And then to that we're adding the teacher letters of recommendation. So that's it.
And how do you think students should decide where they want to apply?
Well, that goes back to doing their research. I mean, again, too often students everywhere listen to their friends, pick schools based on name recognition. And rather than doing that, students should do their research first by starting out and thinking about size. Do they want a small, medium, or large school? Location. Do they want an urban, suburban, or a rural school, that has a big, beautiful campus? They do need to think about things like cost and what their family can afford, and are they willing to take out loans, or are they not willing to take out loans? The major is important in some instances, but frankly, because 80% of all students change their major in college at least once, major actually isn't as important as people put an emphasis on. Because odds are whatever you think you're going to do is not what you're ultimately going to do, and most colleges and universities have a wide variety of possibilities for you. So honestly, I think we both feel like we want you to have that heart feeling when you find that right fit for you. You're going to know when you step on a campus and everything feels right. Everything the students say is exciting to you. What the school can offer you is exciting, and that's really what we're kind of ultimately going for.
I'll just add two things to that. I think that sometimes students look at all those characteristics that Ms. Keegan just mentioned, but literally what they forget to do is look at the academic fit. So they often are not looking at their GPA and their test scores and their rigor of courses. So all the characteristics are there, but they've really neglected what kind of a candidate they are for that school. And that can really produce some disappointing and devastating results. The other thing that I think we come across, which can be a little frustrating from our perspective, is so many of the colleges have now those fast track applications. So a student will get a fast track application from a college or university that they have never cared about, but because it's a free application and it's a very simplified version, they say, oh well, what can it hurt? Let me just apply anyway. And that can muddle the kind of the application process, because all of a sudden now they're just, at whim deciding to apply in a school which may not even meet their characteristics.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.